In the last days of the age of dinosaurs, the world is dying, but the king still walks. Two tyrannosaurs move through the forest like living earthquakes. Every step presses thousands of kilos into the mud. Every breath pulls in the scent of the dead and the living. They are following a trail, broken ferns, a smear of blood, the faint, metallic taste of fear in the air. For the animals that share this valley, there is no mystery about who owns it, only a question: whose turn is it today? The forest explodes. A hadrosaur bursts from the trees, lungs burning, crashing through the undergrowth in blind panic. Behind it, the tyrannosaur's head snaps around. The hunt is no longer careful. It's immediate, instinctive, violent. One roar tears through the valley, a sound built to freeze muscles and empty minds. For 68 million years, there was nothing on land like this. And then, in a geological blink, it was gone. We live in a strange time. The king is dead, and more famous than ever. Fossils of Tyrannosaurus rex sleep beneath glass in museums across the world. We give them names. SUE, Scotty, Stan. Look at one, and the numbers alone feel unreal. 12 meters from nose to tail, hips as high as a basketball hoop, a body mass heavier than an African elephant. These animals ruled a continent we now call North America at the very end of the Cretaceous period. A world of coastal swamps, conifer forests, and broad floodplains. When T-Rex walked the earth, there were no Triceratops-free zones, no safe neighborhoods. This was the apex predator of its time. The final act of a long evolutionary experiment in building the perfect land-based killer. But the real story isn't just size, it's precision. Because behind the teeth and the myth is an animal that evolution shaped step by step, bone by bone, into something terrifyingly efficient. Tyrannosaurus rex did not appear out of nowhere. Its story begins nearly 100 million years earlier, with hunters that barely came up to its knee. Imagine the Jurassic forests, packed with long-necked sauropods, armored stegosaurs, and dangerous predators that look nothing like T-Rex. In the shadows, there is something else. A small, fast hunter, maybe 2 meters long, light bones, feathers, a long tail for balance. These early tyrannosaurs were not kings, they were survivors. Too small to challenge the dominant predators of their time, they carved out a living as mid-level hunters and opportunistic scavengers. But evolution loves patience. Over millions of years, tyrannosaurs grow larger, their skulls deepen. By the late Cretaceous, the small feathered forms have given rise to something else entirely, a dynasty of giants. Different species stalk different parts of ancient Asia and North America, each one a step closer to the final design, and at the very end of that line stands Tyrannosaurus rex, not a freak accident, but the last, perfected heir of a very old, very ruthless family. To understand what made T-Rex different, you have to look it in the mouth. This skull is not just big, it is reinforced. Huge bones knit together in complex arches, joints locked and braced like the beams of a bridge. This head isn't just designed to close, it's designed to survive what happens after. When a T-Rex bites down, the pressure can crush bone like stale bread. Teeth as thick as bananas sink in. You can see the evidence in fossils of its prey, ribs snapped, vertebrae bitten clean through, skulls punctured and shattered. For most predators, bones are armor. For T-Rex, they are calories. Behind the jaws sits a brain wired for hunting. Immense olfactory bulbs suggest a sense of smell powerful enough to follow a blood trail over kilometers. For years, a debate has stalked T-Rex's reputation. Was this animal truly a hunter, or mostly a scavenger, stealing kills and feasting on what others left behind? On one side, the prosecution. They point to the enormous nose, the heavy body, the ability to smell death from vast distances. They argue that such a massive animal couldn't safely sprint after prey without breaking its own bones. A 7-ton hyena, they say, is a hyena chained to the carcass pile. But the defense has evidence. Fossil skulls of duck-billed dinosaurs show healed bite marks that match tyrannosaur teeth. These animals were bitten and lived long enough to heal. That means the attack failed. That means there was a chase. Rib cages of Triceratops show systematic damage, as if a tyrannosaur knew exactly where to bite to open the chest and reach the organs who find damage. That means practice. That means this happened often. The truth, as usual in nature, refuses to choose one side. T-Rex was an opportunist. It would absolutely follow a smell of death to a free meal, but when the chance came to take fresh meat, it had the tools, the brain, and the instincts to make its own. Popular culture gave T-Rex a second superpower, speed. In the movies, it keeps pace with a speeding car, thundered on by music and terror. But bones don't care about box office. When scientists build computer models of T-Rex legs, they discover a problem. To sprint like a racehorse, this animal would need leg muscles so huge they would take up most of its body. There simply isn't room for that much engine. Scaling laws are cruel. The bigger you get, the harder it is to be both massive and fast. So was T-Rex slow? Not exactly. Think less, sports car, more heavily armed truck. It could likely move at a steady, ground-eating pace faster than most of its prey could manage for long. It didn't need to outrun a jeep. It just needed to be close enough when something made a mistake. A stumble, a slip in the mud, a moment of panic. For an animal with a bite that can turn bone to splinters, one moment is enough. No animal is born a king. Somewhere in the nest of rotting vegetation, a T-Rex egg cracks open. The hatchling that steps out is the size of a small bird dog, large-eyed, feathered, vulnerable. For the first years of its life, this little tyrant is prey as much as predator. Giant crocodiles, other dinosaurs, even adult tyrannosaurs would eat it without hesitation. But if it survives, something extraordinary happens. Its bones record a growth spurt so intense that, during its teenage years, it may gain tens of kilos each month. The skull lengthens and deepens, the teeth thicken, the arms shrink in proportion to the body, the legs become towering pistons. In less than 2 decades, the fragile hatchling transforms into a 6 to 9 ton super predator. Most never make it. Injury, disease, starvation, or the jaws of their own kind end the story early. Those that do become the ruling class of their ecosystem. And yet, even for them, there is no gentle retirement. A broken leg that never heals, a skull cracked in combat, a drought that empties rivers. Every skeleton in a museum is a biography that ended suddenly. The king dies, the bones begin their second life, waiting for us. T-Rex may rule popular culture, but in the fossil record, it has rivals. In what is now South America, another giant stalked long-necked sauropods, Giganotosaurus. In ancient North Africa, Spinosaurus prowled the river systems with a crocodile-like snout and a sail towering above its back. The headlines love these animals for a simple question: which one was bigger? Reality is more complicated. Giganotosaurus may have been slightly longer. Spinosaurus may have outweighed them both, depending on how much time it spent in the water. But size is only one way to measure a predator. T-Rex isn't just large, it is dense, heavily built, with a skull that trades length for crushing power. It is less a sword and more a hammer. Even within its own genus, mystery lurks. Fragmentary skulls from different parts of ancient North America hint at close relatives, animals that look almost like T-Rex, but not quite. Some paleontologists see new species, a deeper, more complex dynasty of tyrants. Others see simple variation, older individuals, different sexes, regional differences in one widespread species. And then there's the case of the pygmy tyrant. For decades, a smaller skull, lighter and more agile, was labeled Nanotyrannus, a dwarf cousin of T-Rex. Later, many argued it was just a teenage T-Rex caught before the growth spurt. Today, the evidence points in both directions, and the arguments are fierce. In the courtroom of paleontology, the jury is still out. Every new fossil is another witness called to the stand. For an animal that has been gone for 66 million years, T-Rex has an impressive media career. When we first met it in the early 1900s, it was drawn like a lizard on stilts, dragging its tail like a heavy anchor. Slow, dim-witted, in mid-century movies, it became a stop-motion monster, roaring, waving its arms, battling other dinosaurs in impossible duels. Then came the 1990s. Thunder, rain, a glass of water trembling on a dashboard. A new T-Rex stepped out of the dark. Faster, smarter, a nightmare that could chase a car and tear down walls. For millions of people, that was the moment the skeleton became real. But our picture is still changing. Feathers may have covered parts of its body, at least when young. Its posture is more bird-like, its tail balanced, its movements more controlled and precise than the clumsy giant of old artwork. Every time our science improves, we repaint the king. Maybe that's what draws us back to it. T-Rex is not just an animal, it's a mirror. When we imagine nature as brutal and stupid, we drew it as a sluggish brute. When we feared technology running wild, we imagined it as an unstoppable machine. Now, as we learn to see animals as complex, intelligent, and deeply adapted, T-Rex becomes something else. Not a villain, not a hero, just an apex predator doing exactly what evolution built it to doing. It's hard not to judge. We look at a tyrannosaur tearing into a carcass, at shattered bones and torn flesh, and we feel an instinctive revulsion. We call it cruel, but cruelty requires choice, and Tyrannosaurus rex never had one. Its teeth do not negotiate, its bones do not argue. It kills because every cell in its body is the result of ancestors that killed well enough to reproduce. The hadrosaur fleeing through the trees is not innocent. It eats. It tramples seedlings, it strips branches. Its survival is built on the deaths of plants. The line between monster and victim is something we draw. Nature doesn't. To the Cretaceous world, a tyrannosaur was not evil. It was gravity, a fact of life you planned your day around. The real horror isn't what it did to others, it's what happened next. One day, the sky changed. Somewhere far from this valley, a rock the size of a city entered the atmosphere. When it hit, the shockwaves, the fires, the darkness did not ask who was predator and who was prey. The king, the herd, the forests, the oceans, almost everything was thrown into the same extinction lottery. And in the ashes that followed, the age of dinosaurs ended. But not entirely. Birds carry the legacy of the theropods into the present. Every crow, every hawk, every pigeon pecking at crumbs on a city street is a distant echo of the tyrant lizard. The king is gone, but its story didn't stop. We are part of it now, digging up the bones, animating them in our imagination, turning them into myths, warnings, and dreams. In this valley, T-Rex ruled with size and power. But not every predator chose that path. Some went smaller, faster, sharper. Hunters that traded bone-crushing jaws for sickle-shaped claws and razor intelligence. Creatures so strange that when we first found them, we thought they must be fantasy. In the next episode, we leave the kingdom of the giant and step into the shadows with the raptors. This is the story of Velociraptor, what it was, what it wasn't, and how a little predator from the desert became one of the most misunderstood monsters on Earth.